The tale of the black-eyed children has intrigued and terrified many who have come across them or learned of their existence. Often depicted as kids aged 6 to 16, these enigmatic beings are characterized by their unnaturally pale complexions and entirely black eyes devoid of both sclera and pupils. They often appear out of nowhere, knocking on doors or approaching cars, making simple requests like asking for a ride home or to use a phone. Despite their polite demeanor, those who encounter them are often overwhelmed by an intense feeling of fear and dread, as if something sinister lies beneath their innocent facade. What makes these encounters even more unsettling is the consistent theme of unnatural occurrences that follow. Many people report strange illnesses, misfortune, or an ongoing sensation of being watched after meeting these children. While their sudden appearances and eerie black eyes might be enough to make anyone recoil, it's the deep, unsettling sense that something dark is hidden behind their youthful faces that leaves a lasting impression. Here are several chilling real-life stories from individuals who came face to face with these beings and lived to tell the tale. In January 2016, an elderly couple residing in a remote area of Vermont had a terrifying encounter one cold, snowy night when they heard a knock at their door. Standing outside were two children, a boy and a girl, both looking down and asking to come in, claiming they were lost and needed help. Although they felt uneasy, the couple's sympathy won out, and they let the children inside. As the kids warmed up, the wife noticed something disturbing. Their eyes were completely black. A wave of dread washed over her. Her husband, recognizing the same unsettling feature, asked the children to leave, but they remained silent. Moments later, the wife suddenly felt nauseous and developed severe nosebleeds. Just as she was about to faint, the power in the house went out. After a tense standoff, the children quietly stood up and left. The couple's health continued to decline after the encounter, and they reported multiple strange occurrences, including mysterious illnesses and a string of bad luck. They later learned that others had reported similar sightings in the area. In 2010, a woman in rural Pennsylvania had an unsettling late-night experience. One night, around 11 p.m., she heard a knock on her door. When she looked outside, she saw two boys, about 10 years old, standing on her porch. They asked to use the phone to call their mother. Immediately, the woman felt an intense sense of fear and dread. The boys didn't make eye contact, and something about their presence felt wrong. Reluctantly, she told them she didn't have a phone and tried to shut the door. That's when one of the boys looked up, revealing his completely black eyes. Paralyzed with fear, she slammed the door shut and locked it. The boys continued to knock for several minutes, demanding to be let in. Eventually they left, but the woman never saw them walk away. When she peered outside, they had disappeared into the darkness. In 2013, a man was working the night shift at a gas station in a small town. It was a quiet, rainy night when two children appeared outside the window. They stood motionless, staring in, waiting to be acknowledged. When the man finally approached the door, they asked to come in and use the phone. Immediately, he felt uneasy. He noticed that their clothes were outdated and their skin appeared unnaturally pale. As the man got closer, he noticed their eyes completely black, without any whites or pupils. The sense of danger was overwhelming. He refused to let them in, and they continued to stare at him, emotionless, through the glass. After several minutes of standing in the rain, the children turned and walked away, vanishing into the night. Shaken, the man searched the surrounding area but found no trace of them. He later learned that others in the area had reported similar encounters. These stories follow a chilling pattern, unsettling children with black eyes appearing out of nowhere, invoking a sense of fear and dread, and disappearing as mysteriously as they arrived. Brian Bethel, a respected journalist from Abilene, Texas, had an encounter that many attribute as the origin of the black-eyed children phenomenon. One night in 1996, he drove to a local movie theater to pay a bill. It was around 9:30 p.m., and the parking lot was dimly lit. He parked near the theater and began filling out a check in his car. illuminated by the glow of the theater marquee. As he was writing, there was a knock on the window of his car. Startled, he looked up to see two boys, around 9 to 12 years old, standing beside his driver's side door. Both boys were pale, with dark hair and old-fashioned clothes. The boys asked him for a ride to their mother's house, claiming they had forgotten their money to see the movie and needed a lift home. Bethel immediately felt an overwhelming sense of dread. The boys' mannerisms were odd calm, but demanding. He noticed that something was wrong but couldn't place it. At some point during the conversation, Bethel looked into the children's eyes. That's when he noticed they were entirely black, no whites, no pupils, just pitch black. Without a second thought, he refused their request, rolled up his window, and began to back out of the parking space. As he did, the older child's demeanor changed, and he began to bang on the window, insisting, "We can't come in unless you say it's okay. Let us in." Bethel sped off, his heart racing. When he glanced back in his rearview mirror, the boys were gone, vanished into the night. Shaken, Bethel wrote about the experience later, and over time, other people started to come forward with their own similar encounters with black-eyed children. In 2018, a police officer named Mark was on patrol in a quiet neighborhood in Ohio late one evening and encountered black-eyed child girl. Here is what he experienced.
So I saw this girl standing by the side of the road, and I pulled over because I thought I could help her. And she was just standing there, and I thought that was, I saw her eyes. They're black, I mean completely black. I leaned forward and she attacked me. I mean, she attacked me. And there was this ungodly voice coming out of her. I had no idea how a human could make that voice, but I was trying to push her off of me, but she was trying to pull me out of the car. And then I broke her neck. I knew I did because I turned her head and I heard a crack. Her whole body shook. I could feel it through her chest. And then she went limp and she fell out of the car. She just stood up like nothing happened and she ran away. She turned to smile at me before she left. That was not human.
A woman checked into a quaint hotel in a small town. Here is what she saw in a hotel hall.
A woman from Michigan was traveling on vacation in Europe with a friend. One night she was in a hotel room in bed when suddenly she heard sobbing coming from the hall. For a while she listened, but it didn't stop. Getting out of bed, she walked to the door, opened it, and looked out. A short distance down the hall was a little girl wearing a white dress with her hair hanging down over her face. Concerned for the child, the woman left the room and walked toward her. As she approached, the girl raised her head and pushed the hair from her eyes. Staring up at her were two absolutely black holes where eyes should have been. Opening her mouth, the creature started giggling. Her teeth were like those of a vampire. Terrified, the woman rushed back to her room and locked the door. A few moments later, the knocking started.
Encounters with black-eyed children share a disquieting theme. Unsuspecting individuals, often in their own homes or familiar settings, find themselves confronted by these unsettling figures asking for assistance. Despite their innocent appearance, the pitch-black eyes and pervasive sense of dread hint at something far more sinister lurking beneath. Those who come into contact with them are often left shaken, with their experiences lingering long after the children have vanished into the darkness. Whether these accounts are mere urban legends, supernatural events, or psychological phenomena, they continue to disturb and intrigue, raising more questions than answers. One undeniable truth remains: those who encounter these black-eyed beings emerge forever changed. Regardless of whether these tales are rooted in the supernatural or are simply contemporary folklore, they have captivated and haunted listeners. The notion of black-eyed children knocking at your door in the dead of night, pleading to be let inside, taps into deep-seated fears of vulnerability and the unknown. It represents a chilling mix of familiarity and terror, something as innocent as a child intertwined with the primal fear of confronting the incomprehensible. What ultimately makes the encounters with black-eyed children so frightening is the uncertainty they leave in their wake. Who or what are these beings? What occurs if someone chooses to invite them in? And why do they seem to instill such a profound sense of darkness in those they visit? While the true nature of these eerie meetings may forever remain a mystery, one thing is clear: those who have faced the black-eyed children are left with haunting memories of their soulless eyes and the dread that accompanied them.